You finally made it. Thank you for joining A.S.A.P Garage again and continuing this journey with me on this brake restoration and upgrade. Just doing a final inspection to make sure that there's nothing missing before I complete this portion of the project. Stay tuned to see what I have for performance on these brakes. Welcome back again to A.S.A.P Garage with your boy Dro. And this is it. We have the full performance upgrade for the brakes. The company that I went for was StopTech, which I definitely am loyal. My cars always have StopTech brake systems or brake kits because I stand by their product. They have a very awesome R&D when it comes to performance and racing. I decided to go with the full kit, even the brake fluids. What we have here are the brake fluids, which is the STR 600. This has a boiling point of 600, which is much higher than your average .3, .4 brake fluids you find in your auto stores. I have the sport brake pads from StopTech. This also gives you an OEM plus upgrade for aggressive back road use and track use. We have here the stainless steel brake lines. This is very important if you're taking your car to the track. You don't want to pinch or break a brake line and have brake failure during an aggressive corner or driving aggressively in the back roads. And then I have the rotors. The rotors, I'll show you in just a second what they look like. They're basically slotted, so that way they cut into the brake pads and give you a better performing stopping power. The difference from those two are, if we see here, this is your average AutoZone or Advanced Auto Part rotors. They rust up, so they don't last that well, and they don't have any performance biting power. Now, if I show you the StopTech ones, these are basically slotted with these lines on the rotor to help cut the brake pads when it's applying pressure and help you stop basically quicker. These are also coated for anti-rust. I'm still going to put an extra layer of coating on them so they don't rust, because I do live in an area that is winter, summer, it rains, and I'm going to be daily driving this once it's out of here. So I want to basically protect it and keep it as pristine as possible. Now, with that being said, I'm going to explain to you a little theory I have from OEM to track use or show car. Now, you have your OEM car, your OEM parts that come with your stock car. That's where it stays at. Wherever the manufacturer decides to leave it at, that's the level you're on, and that's OEM. OEM Plus is what I have here, where you decide to go one extra step higher that the manufacturer decided not to go to because it wanted to stay at a consumer price point. So that way it's easier to obtain by the customer. This is OEM Plus. Now there's track use, which now that brings it up to a much higher level. Those are performance parts that are a little more uncomfortable to have on the car if you're daily driving the car. And that's where you're going to basically be at a higher price point. Those come in your normal 70, 80, $90,000 cars. Those are where you're going to see a track oriented performance part. And then you have your show car. Those are like aesthetics that, keep your car pristine. It sometimes doesn't have any performance to it. It's more for looks, for pictures, to take it to the car show, to keep it in the garage, to trailer it. That being said, I consider this performance upgrade an OEM plus because it looks close to stock, but it's where the manufacturer again didn't want to go up, so that way the price of the car didn't go up, because nobody's going to buy a Civic that costs $35,000. The price point of this car when it came out was around 22 to 24,000, I believe, in MSRP. Now, if you raise the price up to something like around the 30s, anything higher than that, nobody would have bought this car, honestly. There's other competitors that have cars in that price point that are much better than this one, to be honest. So that's what I'm upgrading these brakes to. Let's get to it, and I'll see you at the wheel well. So back at the wheel well with the brake upgrades. Now, the first thing that we have to do is that we have to remove this rotor, like I show with the Japanese style Phillips screwdriver. And we have to remove the flare nut that's attaching the brake hose to the brake lines, which I'm going to show you here also. After that, we just got to remove the brake line from the suspension, and that's basically it. We're going to start with the reversal process of installing everything back with the new rotors, the new brake pads, the new brake lines, and the updated restoration of the new caliper and caliper brackets. First, we got to remove the rotor, like I said. We're going to use the Japanese style Phillips screwdriver. It should be easy if you use this. If you don't use this style of impact screwdriver with the Japanese adapter or Japanese style Phillips head, you're gonna have a bad time with this. You're gonna strip this bolt and then you have to drill it out. I did it with the passenger side, which was annoying. Let's see if this works here. I'm gonna try to see. There we go. That was easy. Like I said, if you do it with the Japanese style Phillips head, it comes out really easy. And this is what we're talking about. I'm going to scoot it in a little bit so you can see it. And that's what we're talking about. I think that's the best view that I could give you, honestly. I don't have a good tripod to give you a better view than that. But all we have to do is take the number 10 flare wrench. Do not use a regular socket or regular wrench with this. Use a flare or you're going to strip the flare nut. I also had this trouble with the front passenger side, and it took me a long while. I'm going to show you what that looks like now. Even though I got it off with the help of some buddies and my cousin. Thank you, Miguel, and thank you, Eric. You guys gave me a good idea on how to remove that. It took me a while. It took me about an hour, but I got it removed, and luckily the StopTech stainless steel brake lines have a flare nut on the bottom, which allow me to reuse the rounded flare nut of the car. So all you have to do is get the number 10 on the flare nut and spin it clockwise. Sorry, excuse me, counterclockwise to remove it. I'm going to continue doing that until it comes out. Okay, it's coming out. Sometimes this doesn't come out easy, and that's why the passenger side rounded out for me, even though I used a flare nut wrench, which is the same one that I'm holding in my hand, but it's okay. There's worse things that could have happened where I would have to cut the line, buy an extension flare kit, and that's not something I wanted to work on, honestly. All right, it takes a while to get it out, but once it's out or loose, there we go. As you can see it there, I'm not sure if you can see it there in the camera that I'm moving it out. Yep. Once it's out and it's loose, all you have to do is take out the pin that's on there. So I'm gonna do that right now. Grab a needle nose plier, and you should be able to just take that out. And sorry again for the angle if it's not a good angle, but I'll try to show you everything at a close up if I can. All right, and this is the piece that you need to take out, or the pin. And then from here, we just have to remove the bracket. We remove the speed sensor out, and that's about it. Let me remove the bracket out here. Actually, we don't probably have to move the bracket. It just comes out. Yeah, we don't have to remove the bracket. We just have to remove the brake line, which I'm going to show you in the video, or I showed you in the video, which is the last bolt that needs to be removed that has the brake line. Okay. This is the full brake line. Okay. And we're going to remove the front rotor. There we go. Rotor's out. So give me a few to restore this dust shield, because it's looking very rusty, and you could definitely tell when you put on new parts if you have all this rust on here. I'm just going to basically hit it with some sandpaper right quick, and then spray it down with some primer, two of them, 2 times, and then spray it down with some aluminum color, so that way it's different than this black. And I'm going to basically time lapse this. So 30 minutes later, and we have this. It's not supposed to be perfect. I didn't want it to be perfect. I just wanted to sand it down, remove a lot of the rust, and paint it with the primer, which is a high temperature primer. And then I picked this aluminum color that I had on the shelf. Didn't want to buy a new one again. And it's also high temperature. This is just the shield to cool down the brakes. So it's not something that needs to be perfect. The rotor is going to cover the majority of it, and you won't see this drips or anything like that. It's just, again, so that way it looks good with the new parts and not a rust behind it. Moving forward with that, we're going to start with installing the brakes rotor, the brake pads, the brake lines, and everything that we removed in the previous episode. Now, the brake lines, to compare it to the original OEM, this is the OEM one, and as you can see, I could bend it, crimp it, and that's why it is not good for track use or doing aggressive driving. If you grab the stainless steel one, this cannot be cut easily, and two, I cannot crimp it as much. It doesn't allow me to because it is stainless steel. And this is what protects you if you are doing aggressive driving, auto track, or track use. With that being said, let me get you a better angle so you can see what I'm going to do to install this brake line. Okay. So pardon, this is the best angle I could get you. I'm going to try to see if I invest in a better tripod or something that is magnetic that could hold my camera or my phone. But for now, this is what we have here. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna take the bottom piece of the brake line, serve it through, and like I said, it has its own flare, so we could just spin it. So what I'm doing is just spinning the bottom part here, and it's grabbing to the top flare and bringing it down towards it until I can't do it anymore, and now I'm going to use the tools for it. So what you're going to need is a 17 flare for the bottom piece, and the original, once more, 10 for the top piece, flare wrench. Gonna hold it one and spin the other one. So the way I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna hold the top one, which is the 10 millimeter, and I'm gonna spin the bottom one since I have more room on the bottom. Try to get it in here properly so the flare wrench bites down on the flare nut completely and gives me a good grip. There you go. I'm just gonna spin the bottom while holding the top. And you want this installed properly because, again, this is your brake line. You do not want your brake fluid leaking while you're driving. That is very, very dangerous. Still got some thread left that I could go to. But even in stock form, it didn't thread all the way in. So don't worry about it going all the way down from the top flare, just until you feel resistant that you can't anymore, like how I am right now. And you should be fine with that much thread. There we go. Just gonna stop right there because I don't want to damage the flare nuts. That should be enough threading there. It's not going anywhere, and we still have to do a leak test once we do the pumping of the brakes and bleeding of the brake lines. We just have to install this pin back in. Sometimes this needs a little bit of persuasion. Yes, it does right now. So we're just gonna grab the hammer. Just gonna grab a mallet here. And it's not going anywhere. Pretty much in there. Let me double check. Yep, it is not going anywhere after that. So I can pull it down and it won't. So the next step we're going to do is that we're going to connect the speed sensor back into its place. There we go. And we're going to attach the brake line to the suspension. So this part you could barely see. I'm just basically attaching a 10 millimeter bolt that attaches a bracket to the suspension, which is the I'll show you in just a second. Okay, let's attach back on there. I may have to loosen it up a bit later to get a good extension of the cable line once we start attaching everything back. Let me get you a good angle so you can see the rest of the rotor and calipers. Okay, so this is a better angle for the rotor installation. Now what we're going to do is install the new rotor from StopTech.